I was talking with someone at work about sports and how I don't relate to it, especially not the loyalty aspect of it, of I like this team basically independent of their merits and for no real identifiable reason. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And it's not my thing, so not only that, but the implications of sports are confined to the arena of sports. It doesn't have any far-reaching effects, really. This team won versus that team won, and what difference does it make? None. Except to people who care about sports, and I don't. Going into the ideas that it's good to be loyal to your own, the kind of family dynamic, which I think is fine in the context of sports. But based on that conversation, we then transitioned to talking about patriotism and having loyalty to your country. And I mentioned I don't like loyalty to a country because it makes you less likely to be skeptical of that country. And he's like, well, that's blind patriotism. Ah, but you see, patriotism is inherently blind because it doesn't matter whether your country is better or not. It doesn't matter the merits of your country, you just support it. It diminishes the importance of the merits of your country versus the accident of you having been born there. It's the same crap that you get in the that clip, the most honest 3 minutes in television, link down the blowjob bar. Guy just smacks down sorority chick with logic and facts. Patriotism makes you more immune to those. You judge other countries more harshly, yet insulate your own from your scrutiny. And while that kind of thing might be okay in the context of sports because it doesn't really matter, it does matter, especially in the context of a democratic republic like ours. It hampers your ability or willingness to scrutinize the people who are put in authority in the government. After all, what is an authority figure in our country in the government? They're our representatives. They are beholden to us, their supposed subordinates, because we are the ones that are the foundation of power that allows them to have the authority. One given authority by the people is necessarily beholden to them, and so it becomes our responsibility to ensure the people that we give that authority to deserve it, because they're doing their job, because they're doing right by us. Of course, there are less extreme versions of patriotism or different conceptions of it where you're specifically being a patriot by questioning authority, things like that. But I think this is a good critique of patriotism in general, or at the very least, implications of it if it's too extreme. But I just like how, in this conversation, we came to a mutual understanding of an issue here, which is that in the case of sports, that loyalty is fine because of how far it reaches. But in the context of the government, that type of loyalty is specifically toxic. And that mutual understanding came from the fact that we were trying to understand each other in the conversation. And this goes back to a video I recently made on my backup channel talking about the difficulties of debating things with people in person. Because very often when you discuss something with someone right there in front of you, the discussion immediately devolves into an argument because the two parties involved take the subject so personally. They're more likely to throw out rhetoric past each other instead of trying to mutually understand the topic. And this is why I think it's so important to not view debate as a competition, but as a mutual attempt to understand a topic. Because in the end, normally when it comes to a discussion like this, I think that being able to agree to disagree with someone is a very good outcome. But in this case, instead of talking past each other and only being able to come to an understanding that we don't agree with each other, we came to a greater understanding of the issues involved. Take competition and replace it with cooperation. Putting both of your minds to work together on the same subject, especially when you are so diametrically polarized on a topic, but are willing to not be polarizing while you discuss it. It's basically the golden mean in action, because you have people at two extremes slowly whittling their way down to the best opinion somewhere in the middle. Normally in a debate you have two people competing with their ideas and one person wins. But personally, I prefer to look at the winner of a debate as the one who comes out better for the experience, not the one who seems to win, especially since I know people who have been in debates with someone who is arguing that the world is flat, and that person won. I don't think you can reasonably argue that one person coming out of a debate seemingly having won is better than two people coming out of a debate better for the experience because they both learned from it. And, of course, not only can it be more beneficial for the people involved, but for the people watching. I think that way we'd get more done. I think it's better to address the question of how do we solve this problem instead of tacitly accusing our opposition of being part of the problem while trying to prove ourselves right. When we don't actually work together when we're having the conversation and instead talk past each other, we're squandering the other person's intellect and what they have to offer us on the topic. And, of course, competition does have a place in the intellectual arena, but I think it should be obvious which one of these attitudes is more generally conducive to actually solving the problems over which we debate, especially when you consider that so many of our debates are just humiliating public displays of educating an ignorant person. Or Pwnage. That's why I'm more for the discussion, because while Pwnage can be entertaining, I'm more for the substance than the sports. Long days and pleasant nights. So, shall we now? I was having a discussion with someone at work on the subject of sports. 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 Sports.